Freedom has a sound. You'd think it would be music or laughter or the roar of a crowd welcoming you home. But for me, freedom sounded like silence. Real silence. Not the silence of a cell where you're listening for footsteps that mean interrogation or worse. Not the silence between screams. Just quiet, empty, safe. I couldn't handle it. Still can't sometimes. Colonel James Robert Harrison, United States Air Force, 52 years old, shot down over North Vietnam on April 3rd, 1968. Prisoner of war for exactly 5 years and 1 month. Released March 29th, 1973 as part of Operation Homecoming. First day back in America, April 1st, 1973. 9 years ago now, and I still remember every detail, every sound, every smell, every moment of standing on American soil and realizing I didn't know how to be free anymore. They don't tell you that. Don't tell you that captivity changes you so fundamentally that freedom becomes foreign, that home becomes alien, that the country you fought for becomes a place you no longer recognize and that no longer recognizes you. I was an F-4 Phantom pilot, aircraft commander, 23 combat missions over North Vietnam before my 24th ended with a surface-to-air missile through my port engine. I ejected at 15,000 feet. My weapons systems officer, Captain Robert Chen from Seattle, ejected 2 seconds after me. We hit the canopy in sequence, both chutes deployed. We floated down into North Vietnamese territory knowing exactly what was waiting. Capture, imprisonment, interrogation, torture. Maybe death. Definitely suffering. Chen died in captivity in 1970. Dysentery, malnutrition, untreated infections. The Vietnamese said he died of natural causes. Natural causes in a prison camp where they beat us, starved us, denied us medical care, left us to rot in cells barely large enough to lie down in. Natural causes. I survived. Don't know why. Luck, maybe. Stubbornness. The fact that I was higher rank and therefore more valuable for propaganda. The randomness of who lives and who dies when humans are systematically breaking other humans. 5 years and 1 month as a prisoner. 1,857 days. 44,568 hours. I counted them all. Counted to stay sane. Counted because it gave me something to control in a place designed to strip away all control. Counted because each day survived was 1 day closer to home. Supposedly. The Hanoi Hilton. That's what we called it. Hoa Lo Prison. Hell on earth. Cells with concrete bunks. Rats. Mosquitoes. Heat that made you wish you were dead. Cold that made you wish you were dead. Interrogations that made you wish you were dead. And the Vietnamese guards who were very good at keeping you alive just long enough to wish you weren't. They wanted information. Military intelligence, bombing targets, aircraft capabilities, unit compositions. They wanted propaganda, confessions of war crimes, denunciations of America, statements that could be used to turn American opinion against the war. They wanted to break us, turn us, make us into tools they could use against our own country. Some men broke, some didn't. Some died before they could break. I did what I had to do to survive. Said things I didn't mean, signed statements I didn't believe, made confessions under duress that haunt me still. The code of conduct says resist to the utmost, but the utmost has limits. The body has limits. The mind has limits. And when you reach those limits, you do what you must to see another day. I'm not proud of it, but I survived. And survival meant coming home. Meant seeing my wife again. Martha, who waited for me, who didn't know if I was alive or dead for the first 3 years. Meant seeing my daughters. Jennifer was 9 when I was shot down. Susan was 7. They were 14 and 12 when I came home. I'd missed their entire childhoods, missed birthdays and Christmases and first days of school and everything that makes a father. But I was coming home, After 1,857 days, after 5 years and 1 month of hell, after Chen dying and dozens of others dying and all of us barely surviving, after torture and starvation and isolation and the systematic destruction of everything that made us human, I was coming home. And I thought that would fix everything. Thought that stepping onto American soil would flip a switch, that I'd become myself again, that the 5 years would somehow disappear and I'd pick up where I'd left off. I was wrong. The plane touched down at Travis Air Force Base, California, on April 1st, 1973, April Fool's Day. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been fooled into thinking survival meant winning, that coming home meant healing, that freedom was the opposite of captivity. We descended the stairs, 93 of us on that flight, all former POWs, all wearing new uniforms that didn't quite fit, all trying to walk like men instead of prisoners. The crowd was enormous. Thousands of people, flags, banners, welcome home signs. The roar was deafening, people cheering, crying, celebrating, overwhelming. I stepped onto the tarmac. American soil, home, freedom, everything I'd dreamed about for 1,857 days. And I couldn't breathe. The noise, the crowd, the chaos, the open space. It was too much. My heart was racing, hands shaking, vision tunneling. I was having a panic attack standing on American soil surrounded by people celebrating my freedom while my mind was still in a cell in Hanoi waiting for the guards to come. An Air Force officer, colonel, like me, but he'd spent the last 5 years in an office while I'd spent them in hell, grabbed my arm. "You all right, Harrison?" I nodded. Couldn't speak. Couldn't explain that I wasn't all right. Hadn't been all right in 5 years, might never be all right again. "Your family's here, your wife, your daughters. They're waiting." Family. Martha. The girls. I'd thought about them every day, imagined this moment, reunion, tears, happiness, everything returning to normal. But standing there on that tarmac with my heart trying to escape my chest and my mind screaming, danger, 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 I realized I didn't know how to be a husband anymore. Didn't know how to be a father, didn't know how to be anything except a prisoner surviving one more day. They brought me through the crowd, people reaching out to touch me, to shake my hand, to thank me for my service. I flinched at every touch, couldn't help it. Touch in prison meant pain, meant interrogation, meant violence. My body remembered, even though my mind knew these people weren't guards, weren't torturers, were just Americans happy to have me home. I saw Martha. She'd aged. Of course she'd aged. 5 years is 5 years. But it wasn't just age. It was the weight, the stress, the not knowing, the waiting. The hope that I was alive mixed with the fear that I was dead, mixed with the possibility that I was suffering, and she couldn't help. All of it written on her face in lines that hadn't been there before. She looked at me. I looked at her. Strangers wearing familiar faces. "James," she said. Her voice broke. I tried to speak, couldn't. My throat closed. All the words I'd rehearsed in my cell, all the things I'd planned to say when I saw her again, disappeared. I stood there mute, unable to connect, unable to close the distance between the man I'd been and the thing I'd become. She hugged me. I flinched, couldn't help it. She felt it, pulled back, hurt and confused. "How do you explain to your wife that her touch triggers trauma responses? That your body associates physical contact with pain? That 5 years of torture has rewired your nervous system, and now even love feels like a threat?" The girls stood behind her, Jennifer and Susan, teenagers now. I'd left them as children. They'd grown up without me, become people I didn't know. They looked at me with this mixture of hope and fear and uncertainty, like they weren't sure if I was their father or a stranger wearing his face. "Hi, Daddy," Jennifer said, tentative, testing, seeing if I'd respond like a father or like the broken thing I'd become. "Hi, sweetheart." My voice sounded wrong, rusty, damaged, like I'd forgotten how to speak normally, how to be normal. Susan started crying. I didn't know if it was happiness or fear or the overwhelming wrongness of this reunion that should have been joyful but felt like drowning. They whisked us to the hospital. Medical evaluation, processing, debriefing, rooms full of doctors and psychiatrists and Air Force personnel who wanted to document everything. Our physical condition, our mental state, what had happened to us, what we'd seen, what we knew. They had questionnaires, protocols, procedures for reintegrating former POWs. What they didn't have was a way to undo 5 years of captivity, a way to erase the memories, a way to make us whole again. The medical exam was clinical. Height, weight, I'd lost 40 pounds, blood pressure, elevated, heart rate, elevated, scars, multiple. From beatings, from torture, from untreated injuries that had healed wrong. Teeth, several broken, never fixed. Vision, deteriorated from years in dim cells. Hearing, damaged from being beaten on the head. Malnutrition, parasites, infections, all documented, all treated, all physical. The psychological exam was harder. They asked questions. I gave answers, most of them lies. "How are you feeling?" "Fine." "Any nightmares?" "Number." "Any trouble adjusting?" "Everything's great. Symptoms of PTSD." "What's that?" They didn't push, didn't dig, didn't want to know the truth, because the truth was I was broken, fundamentally, irreparably. And acknowledging that would mean acknowledging that POWs don't just come home and heal, that some wounds don't close, that some men don't survive captivity even if their bodies make it home. They put us in a hotel that first night. Nice place, clean, safe, everything you could want after 5 years in a prison cell. Martha and the girls were there. We had a suite, 2 bedrooms, living area, bathroom with running water and soap and towels, luxury beyond measure after years of buckets for toilets and muddy water for washing. I should have been happy, relieved, grateful. Instead, I was terrified. The bed was too soft. I couldn't sleep on it. Tried for an hour, tossing and turning. The mattress wrong, everything wrong. Finally, I got up and lay on the floor, hard, uncomfortable, familiar. Martha found me there at 2 a.m. "James, what are you doing?" "Can't sleep in the bed." "Why not?" "How do you explain that softness feels dangerous? That comfort triggers anxiety? That 5 years of sleeping on concrete has trained your body to expect hard surfaces and anything else feels wrong? Just can't." She sat on the floor next to me. Didn't say anything. Just sat there. Her presence was both comforting and terrifying. I wanted her close, wanted her far away, wanted everything to be normal, but knew it never would be again. "Did they hurt you?" she asked finally. Quiet, afraid of the answer. "Yes." "How bad?" "Bad." She waited for more. I couldn't give it. Couldn't explain the interrogations, the rope torture, the beatings, the leg irons, the isolation, the psychological games designed to break you, the constant threat of death, the watching other men die slowly from neglect and malnutrition and untreated disease. Couldn't explain because she didn't need to carry it, too. Because some things shouldn't be shared. Because putting it into words would make it more real, more permanent, more impossible to move past. "The girls want to spend time with you tomorrow," she said. "They want to know you again. I want to know them, too." "Do you?" She wasn't being mean, just honest. "Because right now you look at them like strangers, like you don't recognize them. I don't. They were children. Now they're teenagers. I missed everything. I don't know their friends or their interests or their lives. I don't know how to be their father anymore. Then learn. What if I can't?
She didn't answer. Because maybe I couldn't. Maybe some things are too broken to fix. Maybe 5 years is too long. Maybe the man who was their father died in Hanoi and only this shell came home.
The silence that night was deafening. Not the silence of the cell. This was different. This was the silence of people who love each other but can't connect, who want to reach out but don't know how, who are occupying the same space but living in different worlds. I lay on the floor until dawn. Martha eventually went back to bed. I heard her crying through the wall. Cried because I was home, but not really home. Because she'd waited 5 years for a reunion that wasn't happening. Because the man she loved had been replaced by something damaged and distant and unable to give her what she needed. The next morning, they wanted me to do a press conference. The Air Force had scheduled it. Former POWs talking about their experiences. Patriotic narratives about surviving and resisting and maintaining honor. Heroes coming home. America winning even in captivity. I couldn't do it. Couldn't stand in front of cameras and reporters and lie about what happened. Couldn't turn 5 years of torture into a feel-good story about American resilience. Couldn't pretend that survival meant victory. You need to do this, the Air Force colonel said. Not the same one from the tarmac. Someone higher up. Someone who cared more about optics than truth. The American people need to hear... Need to hear what? That we were tortured, that we broke, that some of us said things we didn't mean just to make it stop, that Chen died because they wouldn't give him antibiotics, that we lived in our own filth and ate rice with worms and lost pieces of ourselves that we'll never get back. That's not the narrative. Then what is? What's the story you want me to tell? He was quiet for a moment. That you survived. That the American spirit is unbreakable. That we won. We didn't win. We endured. There's a difference. Not to the American people. Then they don't understand. They found other POWs to do the press conference. Men who were better at lying, better at performing, better at being the heroes everyone needed us to be. I stayed in the hotel room with Martha and the girls and tried to figure out how to be human again. Jennifer brought me coffee. How do you take it, Daddy? I didn't remember. Couldn't remember how I used to drink coffee. Couldn't remember if I'd liked it black or with cream or with sugar. 5 years of hot water and crushed peanuts, that's what they called coffee in prison, had erased my preferences, erased my tastes, erased the small personal details that make you an individual. However you made it is fine. She'd made it black. I drank it. It was too hot, too bitter, too real. But I drank it because she'd made it for me, and that was connection, and I needed connection even though I didn't know how to maintain it. Tell me about school, I said. Trying, grasping for normal conversation. She talked about classes and teachers and friends and a boy she liked named David. I listened, tried to focus, but part of my mind was still in Hanoi, still in the cell, still counting days and listening for footsteps and calculating survival. Dad, are you listening? Yes, sorry. Tell me more about David. You're not here, are you? You're somewhere else. I'm trying to be here. Try harder. The first week was a blur of medical appointments, debriefings, psychiatric evaluations, reintegration training. They gave us classes on adjusting to civilian life, on reconnecting with family, on managing trauma, on being normal. None of it worked. You can't unsee what you've seen. Can't unfeel what you've felt. Can't unknow what you know about human cruelty and your own breaking points. The classes were well-intentioned. The doctors were competent. The psychiatrists were trained. But none of them had been prisoners. None of them understood. We former POWs would find each other in the hallways, in the cafeteria, in the waiting rooms. We'd nod, make eye contact, acknowledge the shared experience without words, because words weren't necessary. We knew. We'd been there. We carried the same weight. One night, I ran into Major Peterson from the Hanoi Hilton. He'd been in the cell next to mine for 2 years. We'd tapped messages through the wall using the tap code, communicated in the darkness when speaking was forbidden, kept each other sane when sanity seemed impossible. Harrison, he said, just my name. But in it was recognition, brotherhood, understanding. Peterson, how are you doing? Terrible. You? Same. We stood there in silence, both of us knowing that we'd never be okay, that we'd carry Hanoi with us forever, that coming home didn't mean leaving prison. It just meant the prison became internal. Does it get better? I asked. I don't know. I hope so. But you don't believe it? No. We talked for an hour about the things we couldn't tell our families, about the interrogations and the torture and the men who died, about the guilt of surviving when others didn't, about Chen and the dozens of others who'd never come home, about the impossible task of reintegrating into a world that didn't understand and didn't want to understand. My wife asked what happened, Peterson said, asked what they did to me. I couldn't tell her, couldn't put her through knowing, so I lied, said it wasn't that bad, said I'm fine. And now she thinks I'm fine, and I have to keep pretending. Same. Martha knows something's wrong, but doesn't know what. And I can't explain, because explaining means reliving, and reliving means breaking, and I can't break in front of her and the girls. So we lie. So we lie. And we carry it alone. And we carry it alone. That was the price of survival. The burden, the isolation. You come home, but you're not home. You're still in the cell, still counting days, still listening for footsteps, still bracing for pain that doesn't come but might at any moment because your nervous system doesn't understand that you're safe now, that the war is over, that you're free. My breaking point came on day 5. We'd been cleared to go home, back to our house, back to our lives, back to normal. The Air Force gave me 30 days of leave to adjust. Then I'd return to duty, light assignments, desk work, nothing stressful, ease back in, resume my career. As if 5 years of captivity was just an interruption, as if I could just pick up where I'd left off, as if nothing fundamental had changed. We drove to the house, Martha driving, me in the passenger seat, the girls in back, passing through California countryside, everything green and alive and free, no walls, no guards, no boundaries except the ones you choose. The openness was terrifying. I wanted walls, wanted confined spaces, wanted predictability and control, and the structured environment of prison, even though prison was hell, because at least hell was familiar. We pulled up to the house, same house I'd left in 1968, same white paint, same front door, same lawn that needed mowing. 5 years and nothing had changed, except me. I'd changed completely. Martha unlocked the door. We went inside. The smell hit me. Home. Familiar. Memory activating. This was where I'd lived, where I'd been a husband and father, where I'd been myself. But standing in the living room, I didn't recognize it. Or I recognized it but couldn't connect to it. Like looking at photographs of someone else's life. Welcome home, Martha said, trying to smile, trying to make it okay, trying to pretend that 5 years hadn't created a chasm between us that might be impossible to cross. I walked through the house, living room, kitchen, dining room, upstairs to the bedrooms, my bedroom, my bed, my closet with clothes that no longer fit because I'd lost 40 pounds, and my body had changed shape from malnutrition, and my shoulders had shrunk, and my chest had hollowed, and I was physically a different person than the man whose clothes hung there. I went into the bathroom, looked in the mirror, saw a stranger, gaunt, scarred, aged beyond his years, eyes hollow, expression haunted. This wasn't me. This was what prison had made of me. This was the shell that came home when the actual person had died in Hanoi. I sat on the edge of the bathtub and cried. First time I'd cried since being shot down. First time I'd allowed myself to feel anything except survival. 5 years of holding it together. 5 years of maintaining composure. 5 years of refusing to break. All of it collapsed in that bathroom on my first day home. Martha found me, sat next to me, put her arm around me. I didn't flinch this time, let her hold me while I fell apart, while I finally acknowledged that I was broken, that coming home hadn't fixed me, that maybe nothing would fix me. I don't know how to do this, I said between sobs. Don't know how to be here. Don't know how to be your husband. Don't know how to be their father. Don't know how to be anything except a prisoner, and I'm not even that anymore. Then we'll figure it out together. What if we can't? We have to. Because the alternative is you staying broken and us staying apart, and I didn't wait 5 years for you to come home just to lose you to what they did to you. You might lose me anyway. Might already have. The man you married might be dead. This might be all that's left. Then I'll love what's left. I wanted to believe her. Wanted to think that love could bridge the gap. That we could rebuild what prison had destroyed. That coming home meant healing instead of just transferring the location of the suffering. But I didn't believe it, couldn't believe it, because I'd seen too much, known too much, been broken too thoroughly. And once you're broken like that, you don't heal. You just learn to function around the cracks. That was 9 years ago. 9 years of trying to rebuild a life from pieces that don't quite fit together anymore. 9 years of marriage counseling and psychiatry and medication and coping strategies. 9 years of trying to be a father to daughters who grew up without me. 9 years of wearing an Air Force uniform and pretending I'm the same officer who was shot down in 1968. I'm not. That officer died in Hanoi. What came home was something else, something damaged, something that looks and sounds like James Harrison but isn't, not really. The nightmares never stopped. Every night I'm back in the cell, back in interrogation, back watching Chen die. Back in the places I can't escape no matter how far I run or how many years pass. Martha sleeps in a different bedroom now. Says my nightmares keep her up. Says I scream in my sleep, fight invisible enemies, wake up swinging. Says it's safer this way. Safer for her, maybe. For me, it's just more isolation. More proof that even home isn't home. That even freedom isn't freedom. That the cell is portable and internal and follows me everywhere. The girls are grown now. Jennifer's 23, married, has a daughter of her own. Susan's 21, in college, wants to be a lawyer. They visit for holidays, call occasionally. But we're not close, not the way fathers and daughters should be. There's too much distance, too much lost time. Too much of me that's still locked in Hanoi and unreachable. I stayed in the Air Force, made full colonel, desk jobs, training command. Nothing that requires me to fly or fight or make life and death decisions. They're accommodating, understanding. The military takes care of its POWs, at least officially. Unofficially, we're reminders of failure, of the war we lost, of the men who came home broken instead of triumphant. The Air Force doesn't know what to do with us, doesn't want to discharge us. That would be admitting we're too damaged to serve. Doesn't want to promote us. That would be rewarding people who broke under torture, who made confessions, who didn't resist to the utmost. So we occupy this liminal space, neither honored nor dismissed, neither heroes nor failures, just uncomfortable reminders that war doesn't end when you come home. I've read about the tap code being used by other POWs, about men who resisted more successfully, about heroes who maintained the code of conduct perfectly, who never broke, who came home with their honor intact. I compare myself to them and find myself lacking. I broke. I signed confessions. I said things under torture that I didn't mean but said anyway because the pain was unbearable and I wanted it to stop. The guilt of that is heavier than the physical damage, heavier than the missing weight and the broken teeth and the scarred skin, because I failed. I didn't live up to the standard. I wasn't strong enough. And that failure is written on my permanent record in the form of propaganda videos the Vietnamese made, confessions they forced, statements they extracted through pain. Other POWs don't talk about it. We have this unspoken agreement. We don't judge each other, don't compare, don't discuss who broke and who didn't, because we all broke in some way. We all had our limits. We all did things we regret. The only difference is degree and circumstance and luck. But I judge myself constantly. Look at my reflection and see a man who failed, who survived but at the cost of his integrity, who came home but left his honor in a prison cell in Hanoi. Martha says, I need to forgive myself. The psychiatrist says the same. They don't understand. You don't forgive betrayal. You don't forgive weakness. You don't forgive the moment when you broke and said the things they wanted you to say just to make the pain stop. You carry it. You live with it. You wake up every day knowing what you're capable of under sufficient pressure, knowing your breaking point, knowing that honor and integrity and all the high-minded ideals you thought you had are just constructs that dissolve under torture. This is what I want people to know about being a POW. Coming home is not the end of captivity. It's just a different kind of prison. One with more space but no less confinement. One with soft beds you can't sleep in, and freedom you can't quite feel, and family you can't quite connect with, because part of you is still in that cell waiting for the guards. The first day back in America was supposed to be celebration, liberation, joy. It was terror and confusion, and the realization that I didn't belong anymore. That 5 years had created a gap between me and everything I'd fought for. That home was a foreign country where I didn't speak the language and couldn't navigate the culture and didn't understand the rules. 9 years later, I'm still trying to find my way. Still trying to be the husband Martha deserves. Still trying to be the father my daughters needed. Still trying to be the officer the Air Force trained. Still trying to be human in a world that seems designed for people who haven't been broken the way I was. The psychiatrist asks if it's getting better. I lie and say yes. Truth is, I don't know. Some days are easier. Some days I can almost pretend I'm normal. Almost forget the cell and the torture and Chen dying and all the others who didn't make it home. Almost feel like a person instead of a collection of survival mechanisms wrapped in damaged flesh. But most days, I'm still in Hanoi, still counting, still listening for footsteps, still bracing for pain, still unable to accept that I'm safe because safety is an illusion and freedom is conditional and home is just another word for a prison you chose. I survived 1,857 days of captivity. Came home. Started counting again. It's been 3,285 days since I stepped off that plane at Travis Air Force Base. 3,285 days of trying to be free. 3,285 days of failing. The count continues, will always continue. Because once you start counting days, you can't stop. Once you measure life in units of survival, you can't go back to measuring it in moments of joy. Once you're a prisoner, you're always a prisoner. Even when the cell is gone and the guards are memories and the only thing confining you is the space inside your own head. That first day back in America, April 1st, 1973, I thought I was coming home. Thought captivity was over. Thought freedom would feel different than it did. I was wrong. About everything. Freedom sounds like silence. Silence sounds like screaming. And home is just another word for a place you used to belong before the war took that away and gave you nothing back except the burden of survival and the knowledge that some prisons don't have walls. They're inside you, permanent and inescapable, counting days that never end. 9 years free, still captive, still counting, still trying to come home.